The Chicago Bulls lose a game to the Memphis Grizzlies down the stretch due to some mistakes that were made. We're talking just a little bit about that game. Plus, I want to look at the 9 players with expiring deals on the Chicago Bulls, and we're going to say who's coming back and who's gone. We're going to talk about all that plus more and dive into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Tre Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So I was not able to do a post-game show last night. Shout out to Big Kev for holding it down for me on the post-game show, but I just want to touch a little bit on this game, right? The Chicago Bulls were going into a game against the Memphis Grizzlies where they basically had no big men. No Nick Richards, no Gershon Yabusele, no Jalen Smith, no Zach Collins. They had no bigs at all. And while that's not to say that to lay out an excuse for the Chicago Bulls and their mistakes made down the stretch of this game, because I look at this game and you didn't lose this game because of a lack of bigs. Of course, it would have made it a little bit easier. You lost this game because of lack of execution. And that actually goes back to some of my overarching problems with Billy Donovan. I'm not trying to kick Billy Donovan while he's down, if you even consider that. I mean, some people could say he's actually up because he's considering leaving the Chicago Bulls, right? But, you know, we had no bigs at all in that. You even saw Lachlan Albrecht play over 20 minutes, and that just does not happen very often, which is good. I want to see Lachlan have this time with no bigs on the roster that are healthy and actually get some burn here over the last 8 games or so, right? The Bulls have 8 games left. It is what it is, right? You look at the first half of the game, Colin Sexton had a really good. He chipped in 11 points during the first quarter alone. And I know that chaps the ass of a lot of Bulls fans in regards to, you know, keep seeing Colin Sexton because they have this view on Colin Sexton not being here, which I would not say that there's zero chance that he comes back. But, you know, Memphis Grizzlies went on a 15-6 run. The Bulls went on a run themselves several times later in the game. But it really comes down to just mistakes that were made down the game and execution that was lacking during the game, right? Tre Jones made a mistake, but people are blaming it all on him. I won't go that so far as to say that, right? But it's just bad, you know, ball handling and stuff down the stretch of that game. It doomed the Chicago Bulls, but you know, we did still get to see Modest put up 29 points, which is, you know, good. Again, 29 and 10 with 3 blocks and a steal. Like, you want to see Modest take advantage of that. Now, I'm not saying that use that period of time to just, that's what Modest is going to be able to do all next season. But you had that. You got another triple-double from Josh Giddey. You know, you got those type of things to look at and say, well, these are at least players that we know are part of our team. And that's really what the rest of this is about, right? Like, we got 8 games left, y'all. Like, you know, and it sucks because this is the first time since I've been doing this podcast that we've had this many games left, and we know it doesn't matter. Like, say what you will, like at least we were playing to the play, and we know it doesn't matter because the biggest part about this season now becomes about what does AK really do with the flexibility that he has in the season. And that's really what it's about, right? You know, and that's just it. Like, Modest made some mistakes defensively in this game. Even with his growth as an isolation defender this season, he still has growth that he's going to have to do because, you know, we can make a specific stat about isolation defense all day long. And it's a good stat. It's good to see that he's shown growth in that area, but there's so many other things that go into defense. And he does have to learn how to be a better defender in pick and roll and in actions and things like that. Like, it's great when somebody isolates against Modest. They're probably not going to score the basketball via what he's shown, but at the same time, modern basketball isn't just about a lot of players going heavy ISO all the time, right? So you want to see that. Turning the ball over 23 times as well, when you have so many guards that were playing on the team, so many players that should be able to handle the ball, is a bit concerning as well. Memphis had 27 points off those 23 turnovers, so that's the thing that hurts as well. The Bulls now slip to 29-45 on the season with 8 games left, and we'll see how we make it through that. But over these last 8 games, one of the biggest questions is who's going to survive the reset of the roster, right? So I want to talk about the players that are likely, in my opinion, to walk, players that could stay, and the players that I think are likely to stay, right? So I want to start with the players that are likely to stay. Let's stick on that, right? First off, Jaden Ivey as a restricted free agent I just won't count it out completely. You guys know how I feel. Like, I'm not against somebody. I'm not against the Bulls moving on from Jaden Ivey. If they do draft a guard, which could be very likely in this draft, I'm not against them just being like, listen, we don't even want to worry about the qualifying offer. But they still have his bird rights, so there's that goes. They can still negotiate with them, and that just frees up some things that the Bulls can do. So we'll see what happens, right? But overall, I'll say this: like, he's still a former top 5 pick, and if he can get back, if Jaden Ivey can even get back to 80% of what he was that season prior to injury, that's at least a bench scoring guard for you, at least, right? And somebody who can score kind of outside of the typical confines of the offense if you need that. So, we'll take a look at it. Listen, I think that it really a lot for these players comes down to what the Bulls draft. 2 things matter into what the Bulls do this offseason. Where they draft at with their own pick. Do they get lottery luck? What position do they do draft? And do they get that Portland pick, which is looking less and less likely, but it fluctuates back and forth, right? They lost last night. They still they're back at a game and a half now outside of that 8 seed, which means they'd have to get 2 wins if they don't get to the 8 seed, with the Los Angeles Clippers being on a 4-game win streak. But and the Golden State Warriors, for what it's worth, they're also only a half game behind of the Portland Trailblazers. They're on a 3-game win streak. So you look at that. But if the Bulls also get the Portland pick, that means they can go guard and draft and center, or wing and center, right? Like something like that. And if they do that, like, it can change a little bit of the complexity here. So Jaden Ivey, I'd still say it's likely that he gets a team-friendly extension. But I do think that's going to be a low extension. I don't think it's going to be something that we look at and we're like, oh, that's a terrible contract. I think it's going to be shorter as well, maybe a 1+1. Hopefully it's a team option so the team has the choice in that part. But I won't count it out, right? And then I'll say this too. One of Nick Richards and Zach Collins is staying on as the backup center. I need people to realize this. One of those guys is staying on. Now, do the Bulls lean Zach Collins? Even though, listen, when Zach Collins is on the court, he's been really good for the Chicago Bulls. That still maintains there, and that is something that I don't know if AK will completely overlook, right? Because it is there, right? He brings two-way ability as well. He has a really good motor, but he's missed 65% of his possible games here with the Chicago Bulls. 65%. So, he missed 72. He's going to miss 72 games this season. And so because of that, if Zach Collins was more healthy, I would put him in the sure to get an extension timeline. But I do think with the Bulls, like, they're probably going to target a center, whether it be in the draft or restricted free agency. You still need a backup big. And I think that is likely that either Zach Collins or Nick Richards gets that backup center role. You don't want to see them starting, though. They need to be backups, like firmly in the backups, right? So then who are the players that are likely to walk away from the Chicago Bulls, right? Anthony Simons is gone. Listen, if the Bulls can convince Anthony, if they do enough, let's say they do draft a wing, right? A starting 3 to go next to Modest, which I still have my doubts because I still think the long-term plan is Modest and Noah as your forwards, but Bulls have to go best player available. That's what they have to do. And if they go into the top 4 and they're number 4, could very well be Caleb Wilson. You don't turn Caleb Wilson down because you got Noah Essengate or Leonard Miller for that much, right? But if they do that, maybe they can convince Anthony Simons to stay, but I still think it's more likely than not Anthony Simons is gone. He's going to want to compete, and he's earned the right to be on a really good team. And that means that he's not going to have the scoring output that he had before, but it means that he's going to be able to compete for something. And he's talked about how much this season being with Boston put him in a situation where he felt like, hey, I'm actually competing for something. This is pretty damn cool, right? So I think he's gone. Gershon Yabusele, I still think Gershon is probably going to go back overseas. Now, that could change a little bit based on the fact that it seemed like it was the role with the Knicks that led him there. He came back over to the States for a reason, right? After a good Olympic run or, international run. But I still think it's likely he's probably gone, right? Like, his best role is the 3 or 4. That's really where we're kind of going to be the deepest at, right, next season. So, that's probably going to be gone there. Colin Sexton. I'm actually going to put Colin Sexton here as more likely to stay. Now, this could blow up in my face. He could absolutely be gone. But I think when you look at this, the role is there for him. He's going to have a role of being the bench scorer unless some other things change. That role is left open with the departure of Ayo Dosunmu. Not saying he's not the two-way player Ayo is, but you still need a bench scorer. So I think that could be there unless they really feel like Leonard Miller's ready for that role. So I could see Colin Sexton being that bench scoring guard. Now he's probably not going to have the free reign that he has this year, especially if we improve the team. But I think that you look at that one. Now, guard is we got Tre Jones, we got Isaac Okoro, we got Josh Giddey. but we still don't have a starting two guard. And I'm not saying that Colin Sexton can be that starting two guard, but I do think he can provide some scoring punch off the bench. He's provided some leadership. I wouldn't mind Colin Sexton staying on in the Bulls uniform. I think the level of deal, he's probably not going to get the $18 million he's getting now. If any team offers him anything close to that, then go ahead and walk. We ain't got that for you in Chicago, right? So I think that he has the chance of getting an extension. But Gershon, I think, is gone. Anthony Simons, I think, is gone. One of Nick Richards or Zach Collins, they're gone as well for this team this offseason. And so that leaves Jaden Ivey, Colin Sexton, and one of Zach Collins or Nick Richards, I think, are likely to come back. That's 3 of your roster spots taken up. And as far as guys like Leonard Miller and Rob Dillingham, they're under contract next year. That's why I didn't talk about them in this segment. But best believe, Leonard Miller better be back. If somehow the Bulls trade Leonard Miller unless I'll tell you this, I love Leonard Miller, but if he can help you move up in the draft, I wouldn't be against it. I'm just saying, hate me if you want to, but I'm just saying. But other than something like that, I think that Leonard Miller, is good. He needs to be here. Rob Dillingham is under contract. I doubt any team's going to take a bite on him. He's going to be here as well. But the Bulls going to have some flexibility this offseason. And like we talked about many times, it just comes down to what does AK actually do with that flexibility that he's created with what's going on with the roster. And all those second-round picks, do you use those to actually move up or do something unexpected? I guess we shall see what's going to happen in that one. But overall, this offseason, there's going to be a lot of roster turnover. And who survives that is going to be key. And then you still have questions like, does one of Tre or Jalen get moved? Does a team want to bite on one of those guys and the Bulls decide to move one of those guys? That's another question here that we don't really have the answer for, that we'll see what's going to happen with that. So we'll see what happens with the Bulls, man. Overall, it's going to be a fun offseason to cover because there's going to be a lot of news. It's going to be coming real fast, and I'm going to be bringing it to you every single day. With that said, let's get into the mailbag. It is Sunday. Let's get into these voicemails for today, man. The first one that we got today, this one's from Sean.
What up, Haize? Just a quick thought. Oh, my name's Sean. Just a quick thought. I think Keaton Wagler or Braden Burries are great picks to try and get around the range of when the Bulls pick. To all you pro tankers, just a quick message. Y'all gotta stop getting fucking mad when Josh Giddey and Modest Buzelis are the reason y'all are winning games. Why do we want losers on this team, people who give a fuck about where we draft at? Let these guys hoop. If we win, we win. Oh well, we're locked in through 8 through 12 anyway. The Bulls ain't getting lottery luck. I'm being realistic here. Let's just, in that spot that we're drafting, are 2 really good guards that are kind of in there. Or Mikael Brown, LeBaron Philon, he's a good one. Braden Burries, Keaton Wagler, all good guards that we can use. Braden Burries may be undersized, but you watch him play, man. He can shoot the shit out the ball, and he'll try and he gives effort on defense. And that's all we need right now. Peace.
Keaton Wagler, Braden Burries, they're really good options for the Chicago Bulls at guard. I disagree with my brother Pat over on Locked on Bulls. He doesn't like Braden Burries because he says he's too undersized. But I think when you have a jumbo guard like Josh Giddey, I think Burries could be fine here with his defense ability, his scoring ability, that punch. We've seen some of the best basketball the Bulls have played this season been with Josh Giddey and Tre Jones, who's also undersized. Braden Burries brings more legitimate size and a more willingness to shoot, so I can see that working out. I would love Keaton Wagler here, though, like you guys know. But I think Wagler, with the performance he's had in the NCAA tournament, he may be the 5th overall pick in this draft. He may have pushed himself to top 5, top 6 in this draft. Now, we got to see what's going to happen in the combine as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if Keaton Wagler has done some really good work and pushed himself pretty far up that draft. But I'm not really mad at either one of these guys, man. And, I think for a lot of fans that still say that we're guard heavy or whatever, I think they're stuck in a mindset that the Bulls aren't really as guard heavy as they used to be when you look at who's likely to return and who's not. Plus, you need a starting caliber 2 guard next to Josh Giddey, and a scorer could bring that. So we'll see what happens with that one. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reggie, just calling back in. I'm not going to talk about the loss to Memphis because let's be honest, the season was over the minute they traded Aya. From what I can tell, I'm just focusing on the draft. I'm not really focusing on the free agency because, what player is going to want to come to a team with a front office that's so chaotic? I mean, it's just hard to, put out something that, is credible, is reasonable, with guys who want to come here. But when it comes to the draft, I already made my point on wanting to get Yasso Lindbergh. I know you said that he's more of a player on a fit for a win now team, but I just like the guy because I think he's one of the few players at that spot who fits perfectly in with Giddey and Modest. And I know a lot of teams and a lot of people are always fascinated by the 18 and 19-year-olds. But one of the major drawbacks with those guys is that the fundamentals are ridiculously weak. And it takes years for them to fully transition from college to the NBA because of that. And you got to deal with a lot of growing pains unless you get that just all-in-out superstar. Like, I've seen a lot of mock draft where they're drafting guards, but a lot of those guards are offense heavy. Like, they're almost completely a one-way player. And combine that with their weak fundamentals, it just seems to me that it's going to be hard to convince Giddey when it's time to re-sign. Hey, you have these young guys around you, we know, and they've been struggling a lot, but, still the potential. Like, I'd rather have a high floor guy like Yasso than, a wish, like guys you just hope would step up. And as for if the Bulls get the Portland pick, which is going to be at like 15, I probably would consider a guard because I don't think there's really a whole lot of centers at that spot. But I would probably consider trading down and picking up an extra second rounder in this year and next year's draft. And I would probably go after a guy like Malik Thomas from Arkansas. I think he's actually a pretty good catch and shoot guy, but what's your opinion on him, on Malik Thomas? Thanks for hearing me out.
I think you overlook money, Reggie. I think that money is still, especially for the Bulls, are expected to go after restricted free agents. Money matters to those guys. Opportunity matters to those guys. And I think that the front office is hoping that you have Josh Giddey, who's a player that makes players better around him. You have Modest Buzelis, a young up-and-coming player that has a lot of potential, who's already grown a lot. And they're hoping that between that, the top 10 draft pick this year is enough to entice a younger player like a Peyton Watson or a Walker Kessler on top of the money that they're able to offer them to come in, play with this young core. Your role is going to be clear. We need you on this team. I think that you overlook that. Free agency isn't just about, is your coach great? Is your free, that matters as well. Like, don't get me wrong. There are absolutely players that sign because of a coach and the reputation that a coach has and what they feel like they can do for their career, or the reputation of a front office of taking care of their people. But money is still a big motivating factor, and having the role on the court that fits what they're trying to do with their career. And the Bulls can offer that in a lot of places, right? As far as the Yasso Lindbergh thing, not to keep the conversation going, but I think you're missing the point that the Bulls, you said, Josh Giddey, you want players that you have to develop. Josh Giddey has 3 more years under contract. Guess what? If you draft a high floor guy that is capped out, that, yeah, you may get 3 years of a high floor, but if you also draft a guy that by the end of Josh Giddey's contract looks like a star that Josh Giddey needs to play next to, that's going to be great for Josh Giddey as well. Like, players want to play with really good players and things that you can look at going forward and say, hey, listen, this is my core. These are my guys. We rocking out, and I believe in what we can accomplish together. So it'd be different if Josh was like a free agent next year. We got 3 more years under contract with Josh Giddey. So you got time there. And you're going to have to go with Modest as well over that time, and him and Modest's relationship. So, I don't think the Bulls are not at a place where they can draft a guy that is that old yet. And they need I still want them to consider the floor. Like, I've been saying that for a while. You have to consider the floor of a player, which I think AK is overlooked sometimes, but you also want to go with a player that you feel like can legitimately turn into a star. The Bulls are so far away from taking a guy that's like, yeah, he's going to be a solid player, but he may be capped out of who he is in 1 or 2 years. So think about that part of it as well, Reggie. All right, let's get into this last voicemail, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Haize? It's Shay. Look, I know we've already discussed AK doing this, doing that, whatever. But as a fan, you gotta almost be like, yeah, you did what you had to do, you got flexibility and this and all that. But do you really trust him to do what he's supposed to do? And honestly, as a fan, you almost kind of have to feel lied to about the season, because remember, they did say that AK did say that he wanted to make the playoffs this year. Now, I know goals can change, things can change, but when you look at how we competed at the beginning of the season, even in the games we lost, if we just had made one or two moves here, got maybe brought Nick Richardson, Buzelis over here from their teams, and maybe probably traded Kobe White, but kept Io, who knows? We probably could have been in the 6th seed by now. And I know what's done is done, but it's like, do you really trust AK to do what he's supposed to do? This upcoming offseason, I know he said waiting until 2026, but I don't even trust him to do this. And when he's already done made a complete debacle out of the draft, besides Modest and Io, do you even trust him to do that? Again, I'm hoping for the best, but I'm prepared for the worst. Anyway, tell me what you think, man. Peace.
The what ifs are over. Like at this point, I get it. It just happened. It's recent, but the what ifs are over. It's done. Like they made their trades. They made their bed. They've moved on. As far as do I trust AK? No, I don't trust AK. But and I'm definitely not going to act like because we have a bunch of assets, I see AK automatically maneuvering this offseason and being great. But I'm not going to act like it's not possible. People forget the offseason that we got Lonzo, DeMar, Alex Caruso. We had no cap space that offseason. And AK has shown that when he has a focus that he can get shit done. We need to tap back into that version of AK. He's going to have to thread this needle of the offseason if he wants Bulls fans to have faith in this new direction we're going into. But should people just blindly think that, no, you should not trust AK. Trust him for whatever he shows this offseason. As the offseason progresses and whether he starts willing and dealing, moving, whatever, we'll talk about that. We're going to judge it in the moment, right? Like I said, I'm not expecting him. I'm definitely not blindly expecting AK to have a great offseason, but I'm also not going to act like it's impossible because we've seen AK make smart moves before. Just got to hope for the best. That's all I can say on that. We just got to hope for the best, and we'll see what happens in that one, right? But that's my time for today. Y'all appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Standings don't matter for the Chicago Bulls anymore, right? Everything that matters about this team is what happens this offseason and where this team is headed. So I want to ask you guys, who are you keeping that's on this roster? And what chances do you give AK to actually do things right this offseason? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Sound off in the comments. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell if you never want to miss an episode, especially with the offseason coming. And as always, you guys can follow us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.